appreciate everyone being here. We have a full house, which is really exciting. If everybody could take a seat, we'll go ahead and get started. I know we're running a few minutes behind, but it's wonderful to run behind because there's so many people coming in the door that we have to wait for everybody. So great problem to have on a Tuesday night. I am not Reverend Paul Robeson Ford. Surprise. He will be here shortly, but I want to make sure we got started on stuff roughly on time. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We want to thank First Baptist Church for hosting us and providing this wonderful space and community for us tonight. And also thank all the board members and volunteers from Action4Equity who made tonight come together, and everybody who took their time out of their night to come here. It's great to see kids in the audience, parents, community members, pastors, elected officials. Thank you all for taking the time because I know we're all busy. So it's really great to see everyone. We're going to start off tonight with a couple of housekeeping things. You'll notice on your table there's a lot of materials for you to read. Feel free to take those home. They're all also available on our website. There are a few extras at the table over here where we also have Action for Ashley shirts available for a donation if you'd like to make a donation to Action4Equity. In addition, you'll notice there's little note cards on your table. We were hopeful that we would have enough time to do questions tonight, but we have a pretty full agenda. So what we're going to do is collect any questions you have and do a Facebook Live in the coming weeks to answer some of your questions. So tune in for that. We'll announce it on our Facebook page and on our website. But in the meantime, you can leave your questions at the check-in table on your way out, so we can make sure to answer those for you. And of course, our board and volunteers will be around after the event if you have any questions and want to pull one of us aside. So on that note, we will get started. Kelly Easton is going to come up and talk about the history of when we started a year ago, which is what we're here to mark. This is our 1-year anniversary. We want to celebrate that and also say that we wish we didn't have to be up here, but we do because we want to be here to advocate for kids and community in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. So I'll turn it over to Kelly.
All right, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Kelly P. Easton, and I am the president of Action4Equity. And I just want to share a little background information. So many of you know we actually started off as Action for Ashley. That's our shirts. And so I'm just going to go over the history of how this movement began and then bring us forward to where we are today. And in order for me to do that, I have to have Rev Carlile come here and just share, because when I actually came on board with this movement, I was brought in by Mr. Jabbar. We were working on the same campaign together, and at that time, he was just sharing what was going on with Ashley, and so that's how I actually got involved. But before there was ever an Action for Ashley, the Ministers Conference and the NAACP were already advocating on behalf of the students. So I just want him to share just a brief little summary of that information.
Good evening, everyone. Preachers are never brief. Glad to be here tonight. Please don't, Mr. Jabbar. Glad to be here tonight. Appreciate all the work that many of you school advocates have done to continue to advance equity in our school system. Many folk ask, how did this movement come about? This great movement, Action for Equity, actually, as Kelly already stated, was birthed out of the Action for Ashley effort. In August of 2017, I received a telephone call from an employee at the school at Ashley. And they stated to me, Rev Carlile, we have an extreme problem here. We have mold in our school. There's mold on the wall. No one's doing anything. I'm sick. We need something to happen. Immediately, I reached out to the Assistant Superintendent of Operations and asked, hey, what is going on? I hear these reports that there's mold in the school building and nothing is being done. At that point, a investigation was done. An outside environmental company was called in to do an inspection of the school and to test air quality. Within a day or so, I got a report back that, it was just dust, no significant mold was being seen inside of the school. Not having known that the mold in Ashley had been a chronic problem that had existed for years, I took the word of the school official that I was being told the whole entire story, which really speaks to why a group like Action4Equity is so important, because Action4Equity provides a clearinghouse for us for information to bring together all of the many issues that we're facing in our school system so that we all can be in the know. So unfortunately at that point I wasn't completely in the know that this was an ongoing issue until February of 2018. And in February of 2018, then all of a sudden I saw action by teachers who were going to the doctor sick. And so I began to do my homework, and we began to find out that this had been an ongoing problem that had been documented, that had been reported, but there had been nothing done. And not only had nothing not been done, but also the school system was going through great efforts to avoid action on this issue. We formed a coalition with the Ministers Conference, with the NAACP. Many other groups joined in with us at Delabrook Church, and we formed a group, and we deemed it Action for Ashley. And we began to advocate, we began to push for some immediate action. We received numerous reports from parents and children who were dealing daily with sicknesses and illnesses that they said that they attribute directly from their attendance at the school. And from that point, we continued to do our advocacy work with this coalition of groups, and it eventually birthed into what we know now as Action4Equity. That's a short answer.
Thank you, Rev Carlile. Okay, so building a community. So as Rev Carlile had mentioned, a group of community leaders and engaged citizens and organizations all came together at Delabrook. And this right here is the post that he posted immediately following that meeting. So there was Action for Now, FCAE, the Ministers Conference, Men of Action, and the church, and then as well as several citizens, engaged citizens, who were just very concerned about what was going on. So at that time, we realized that we needed to take immediate action. And the consensus was that enough was enough. And we realized that we wanted to focus mainly on three things. We wanted to be able to educate the community on what was going on. And so therefore we said we would do a petition. We agreed that we would actually apply public pressure. And we also said that we would take legal action. So we actually began a petition. And this petition, the purpose of this petition, again, was just to share with the community what was taking place at Ashley. You can go ahead. And so when it came time for us to organize in order to apply public pressure, we worked with, again, those several organizations. The Ministers Conference, Drum Majors Alliance was actually another one, Action for Now, and we just sent out a mass message throughout the network, just informing everyone that we wanted them to attend the school board meeting. And so we were keeping everything under wraps in terms of exactly what it is that we wanted to do, because yes, we wanted to disrupt. So we actually held a press conference right outside the school board. And we also arranged 3 hashtags. Action for Ashley, not another brick, not another bond. Because again, we wanted to make sure that the school board, that the school system, that the community knew that we were very serious about taking action. And Kim Porter, she actually posted this on Facebook, just sharing her experience while she was at the school board meeting, just saying that there was an overflow. And so this right here is the actual upstairs room. There was crowded, packed to capacity. This is downstairs, so you see Reverend Ford. This was before he got arrested. And then the Drum Majors Alliance, who agreed to actually speak on behalf of the coalition. And the reason why I'm posting this is because I just really want to acknowledge the faith-based effort around this movement from the very beginning. Once again, I mentioned the Ministers Conference, and then Drum Majors Alliance, and then also the LOC, which I'll speak more. This picture means a lot to me because what you see a white man, you see a black woman, and you see them standing side by side addressing the school board on behalf of the children in District 1. So here we have Lightwell Johnson, Ricky Johnson, and he was just sharing his perspective, just in terms of saying, well, again, we were there to protest. And you know, and what you'll find is that there are various voices throughout our movement. And the one thing that we are very careful to do is not to hinder anyone's voice. So some voices sound a little more unapologetic than others, and that's okay. Because again, we're all fighting for the same, to achieve the same mission. So if something needs fixing, then lace up your shoes and do some organizing. So again, we did the petitions, so we had the online petitions, but then we also passed around these petitions. Several churches actually sent these sheets around their congregations. We did some canvassing. And then again, the LOC was very instrumental in regards to our grassroots organizing. What you'll see here is one of the first meetings that was held at the LOC, and this is Brother Ifekwam Muhammad, and he's again just sharing, you know, hashtag Action for Ashley. And this is how we were able to build momentum. You go here. And so this right here, show me the parents. So we knew that part of our grassroots organizing, we had to make sure that we got in front of parents. So we did several things in order to do that. This right here is one of the efforts that we did. We actually passed out information to the parents as they were dropping off their children at school. We also met here at First Baptist Church, and we just discussed strategies and ways that we can get the word out, not only to parents, but again, just making sure that the community knew what was going on. And this is Nikita McDaniel. She's an organizer and an activist, and she's known to be able to work with parents. She was actually at that meeting, and immediately she left and began doing organizing on her own. But then we also saw the hashtag being used by others. We have Kedrick Easter. He actually participated a lot with Action for Ashley. He did a video that just talked about what was going on his own effort using the hashtag. And then also I found this is Neighbors for Better Neighborhood. They use our hashtag as well. And then we even had Representative Ed Haynes. I'm not sure what show he was on, but during this interview, he mentioned Ashley and just, again, wanting to bring more focus into education. So when it comes to social justice, I challenge you to file lawsuits. This is what Justice Anita Earls just recently stated at the NAACP Freedom Fund. So we know that we have to be very aggressive around social justice, and more so now we have to take legal action. So it's one thing to vote, it's one thing to hold our elected officials accountable, it's one thing to use our voice, but if we want to see change, then we need to, we have to go a little bit further. And so this is where we brought in Peggy Nicholson with the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, and we decided that we're going to go ahead and file the complaint. And then we also began to rev up our efforts online through our Facebook group. So we know that this is a long game and it requires a long haul. One of the things that we began to do is we said we're going to begin to advocate. And so with that, we changed the name to Action for Equity. These are a few of the things that resulted from all of the organizing efforts that we did. We felt that as though we helped flip the school board just through the activity that was taking place on the ground during the elections. Here's a meeting that we had. This is when Miranda Jones. She was one of the co-coordinators at the time. She filed she actually applied for a grant. It was our first grant, our only grant at this point, where we were awarded $3,000. Some of the other things that we did Just Ask. This was, again, just really trying to encourage the superintendents to ask for what's needed in terms of the budget. We partnered with Triad City B. And then we made our recommendations. We began to organize, and we knew that we had to come with something tangible, something that would really, could almost guarantee change. And this is our policy agenda. We made recommendations to the school board this night. And then we began to partner with other organizations. We partnered with Norwood Baptist, who's also who helped volunteer this evening. Thank you, Norwood. And here is that panel discussion. And we also partnered with the Ministers Conference, where we had school board members come to the Ministers Conference and they answered questions. And these were hard questions. And they had the courage, stepped up, and answered every single last one, and we appreciated that. We also partnered with the Winston-Salem Foundation. Layla Garnes, she came out and she just shared some reporting from a study that the foundation was doing. We also partnered with Read, Write, Spell. And then this right here, just a list of other events that we continue to do. And then here recently, we were here at First Baptist Church trying to kill the bill. And this just shows that we really try to move as responsive as we can. We never know what's going to happen, but thankfully we have a really great team, and everybody's always willing to step up and take action as needed. And we were able to stop activity with this. Okay. So again, when we went from Action for Ashley to Action for Equity, we really want to focus on making more strategic moves. So here are just three main things that we've been able to achieve. So Ask Not, Receive Not. Katie, the chair of tonight's event, she actually, the same night we made our recommendations, she asked the school board members if they'll be willing to take a racial equity workshop, and they did. We also submitted our policy agenda, and we saw that the school board actually began to make moves, made the moves. They've expanded their equity office to have one officer and then two people who would report to that position. And then we began to establish better communications with the school boards, better communication with Ashley Elementary. And this right here is just showing some of our online engagement. How many people are on in our Facebook group? Okay, wonderful. So our Facebook group is extremely active, and we have a really great engagement. And so these are just some of the recent posts that we had, but you can see there are a lot of comments. People are actually seeing the information, and the engagement is wonderful. So education is an important element in the struggle for human rights. It is the means to help our children and thereby increase self-respect. Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. And this right here is our team. And right now we're in the process of officially formalizing our 501c3. I could not be more proud of the team that we have. Rev Ford says that I am exhausting. As you can see, we've done a lot. And we do not, and no one gets paid. We are all volunteers, not one person gets paid, and everyone handles this as if it is a job. So thank you. And that is pretty much it. So thank you, and I guess Katie would let us know what's taking place next.
Thank you, Kelly. She's been our fearless president. She's exhausting, but she gets things done, and we love her. And she makes sure we are on task and doing what we need to do for community. Next, we have Peggy Nicholson from the Youth Justice Project, which is part of the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. And she is going to talk about our civil rights complaint that we filed with the Department of Education.
Thank y'all for having me here today. I've felt really honored to work with Action for Ashley and now Action for Equity on all of these issues, and just want to echo two things that Rev Carlile and Kelly said. One, when we were looking at Ashley and looking at filing the civil rights complaint, Action for Ashley Ashley was really clear that the complaint was not about the teachers and staff at Ashley. In fact, they were the ones who brought these concerns up and were incredibly dedicated to making sure their students had a healthy, safe school and meaningful educational services. And so this was really about the district's response to those concerns, which leads me to the second point is I think one of the things I really appreciate about working with Action for Equity is that they understand that this, what happened at Ashley is a symptom of a much larger problem, and that we can build a new Ashley school, but if at the same time we're not fighting to address the underlying causes that let those concerns go unaddressed for years and years, then it's just going to happen again and again. So I'm really honored to work with them and encouraged by their way that they work, of both looking at these things that happen in communities right now, but also looking at the underlying systemic forces. So a little bit about the Office for Civil Rights complaint that we filed. For those who aren't aware, the Office for Civil Rights is part of the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education has jurisdiction over any public schools that receive federal funds, because essentially when public schools accept federal funding, they agree to abide by federal anti-discrimination laws. They say they won't discriminate based on race, sex, national origin, age, and disability. And so the Office for Civil Rights is the enforcement piece of the U.S. Department of Education. So when there is a concern that discrimination might have occurred, then the Office for Civil Rights has the ability to come in and investigate and work with the district if discrimination is found to remedy that discrimination, and if needed, to force the district to take corrective action to address the discrimination. Our complaint, we allege that the district's inadequate and slow response to the concerns at Ashley were discriminatory and constituted a civil rights violation. And some of the evidence that we used in our complaint really pointed to ways the district had responded to other schools and other needs in the past. One of the examples that we outlined in the complaint was a situation at Haynes-Lowrance in 2015, where whiter, more affluent schools faced a similar health safety concern. It was brought to the board, and in less than a month, those students were out of that school to the tune of over $2 million cost to the district. Some additional evidence that we put is the priorities that were funded in the bond. You know, there's an overcrowding issue in the district, and a lot of the families benefiting from the building of new schools to relieve overcrowding are whiter, more affluent families and communities. And I want to be clear that because we use those as evidence is not to say that overcrowding isn't an issue or that students at Haynes-Lowrance shouldn't have been moved, but essentially to say that the needs of all students in this district aren't being addressed in the same way. And some students' needs are being addressed more promptly, more fully than other students' needs, and race clearly seems to be playing a role of who has power to get their needs addressed. So our complaint asked for 4 things. So one, we asked that the district take immediate steps to build a new Ashley Academy. We asked that until that new facility was built, that the district give students and staff who were experiencing health concerns the option to move to a new school with transportation provided. We asked that the district provide compensatory education to students who might have had their education disrupted because of sickness that they experienced at Ashley. And then finally, we asked that the district do a comprehensive facilities overview of all the facilities in the district, especially focusing on schools serving predominantly students of color and low-income students, to make sure similar issues were not being experienced by other schools. Going back to, just quickly before I wrap up, the reason we chose an Office for Civil Rights complaint was intentional. It is not the same as a lawsuit. We're not suing the district. We're not taking them to court and asking for damages. One of the reasons that Action for Ashley, now Action for Equity, wanted to go the route of the Office for Civil Rights complaint is because built into the process are many opportunities for collaboration and for the district and the Office for Civil Rights to work together to address the concerns outlined in the complaint. And then additionally, the Office for Civil Rights has lots of resources that they can bring to bear to a district who might not know how to address the discrimination that's occurring. So I think that Action for Equity has proved that it really wants to work with the district on this. I know there are going to be some updates tonight on steps the district is already taking, steps the school is taking to make sure children are safe and healthy. And one of the great things about the Office for Civil Rights Complaint is that it allows and encourages those proactive steps. So I appreciate you all being here. I work with communities and groups working for education equity across the state, and I have been incredibly impressed and encouraged by the work being done by Action for Equity here in Winston-Salem. So y'all have a really great resource, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
And I really want to thank Peggy and the rest of the team at the Youth Justice Project and the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. They have been instrumental in moving us forward as an organization. Obviously the complaint that was filed with the Department of Education and the Office of Civil Rights, but just providing daily support when we have questions about what's going on in other parts of the state. They've been just so helpful. Next up, we have Chair Woodbury, who's going to come and talk about Ashley Academy and what's going on. Leah Crowley, who's the chair of the Building and Grounds Committee on the school board, was supposed to be here, but her son's sports award banquet got moved. So she's supporting her son tonight, so we support her in that. But Chair Woodbury was nice enough to come and do double duty tonight, so we appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to recognize the other board members that are here. We have Vice Chairwoman Barbara Burke, and we also have board member Deanna Kaplan. Before I do what I have been tasked to do, I have to say that since I'm in a church, I got to testify.
All right.
This experience right now, I want you all to know, is so divine. And I thank God right now for allowing me to see what just myself and a few other community folk like Carolyn Highsmith, Robert Leak, Eric Martin, Ike Howard, just a few of us came together in 2014 after my second loss from the school board. So I was devastated. And Carolyn Highsmith called me and said, Shay, you got to get back in the community. Let's do something. And so we formed the Coalition for Bond Equity. And in our proposal to the school board in 2014 for the 2016 bond was a new Ashley. I never imagined that I would sit here in a room that is made up of all of Winston-Salem. And I'm so reminded of what Martin Luther King Jr. was doing in a book that he wrote. It's called Stride Toward Freedom, right? And he has this exegesis really about love. And it's about faith and works. Faith and works will manifest into what you see right here today. And the only thing I will say before I get into the history of the Ashley component, which I've shared with you some of it, there was one event, Kelly, that you left out. Brother Carlile and I were over at John Wesley Church. We did a parent information night. We had 3 parents, and we bought 10 pizzas. Listen, we put that show on like it was 100 parents, like it's as many people as you see tonight, right? So, I mean, it has just, it's full circle, but I'm full, right? So I already talked about the Coalition for Equity, which proposed to put Ashley on the bond back in 2014. I will say that in coming on the school board, other board members from the previous board shared with us a little bit of history about ideally hoping to build a new Ashley based on a collaborative venture between the Housing Authority and the City of Winston-Salem. And ideally, a grant was supposed to be written that would build Ashley into a whole community effort, right? And so when the new board came on, we picked up the energy of where would the new Ashley be? And that's where we are right now. That is a closed session conversation. So legally, I cannot talk about where the new Ashley is going to be. What I will tell you is that we are in conversation about where the new Ashley will be. We anticipate an update ideally at the end of this month in our May meeting, but we are very hopeful that by June, 9 people will raise their hand for the purchase of the land acquisition of Ashley. 9 of us. That's the first step to build a school. You have to purchase the land. And all 9 of us will have to determine where we're going to get the money from. And I have been told by every single board member they will support wherever the money needs to come from to get the land for Ashley. So I'm super excited for the community to see this. The second step in building a new Ashley will be the design of the school. And most of you already know that in the 2016 bond, we were able to get the design paid for. So that's already there waiting for the land to purchase. And then, of course, our third hurdle will be to find the funding to build Ashley. But can we get step 1 and step 2 done first? So I appreciate you all giving the board an opportunity to update the community of where we are with the building of a new Ashley Academy. And I want to thank Ms. Linville, who is the principal of the school, for being an outstanding leader and a partner in this venture. Thank you.
You can come on up, you're next. I don't plan to be up here for very long. We do want to thank all the elected officials that are here tonight. I know we have council member Dee Dee Adams is here, Sheriff Kimbrough is here, Barbara Burke is here, Deanna Kaplan, obviously, Chair Woodbury is here from the school board. Am I missing anyone else? If I am, I apologize. There's a lot of people here, which is amazing to have standing room only. And we want to thank the school board for being so willing to work with us where we can find common ground. It's been a really fruitful partnership. And we're so thankful to have Principal Linville here from Ashley, who's been doing great work. Ashley is a really great school. We're really building a great community there. So thank you for coming.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am Scarlet Linville, and I am the proud principal of Ashley Academy. I want to take some time because I see some familiar faces in the room, but there's some new faces. So I want to take a moment just to let you know who I am as a person first, because that informs how I work as a leader of the school. I'm from Yadkin County, Boonville, North Carolina. Anybody know where that is? Okay, all right, good. And growing up, I was, a strong scholar, very strong athlete, but when it came time to graduate high school, no one talked to me about that process. It wasn't even on my radar. Nobody in my family had been. I didn't know the first steps. In fact, I wasn't even thinking about pursuing it. But my cousin from Durham called, and it must have been late July, to say, where are you going to school? And I said, I don't know. I don't have any plans. She said, pack your bags, I'm coming to get you. And she drove from Durham, picked me up, took me back to North Carolina Central University, and walked me through every step of the process to get enrolled. And it was so late that I didn't even get to stay on campus. I had to stay at her house the whole first semester. I share that because she was my angel. I know education is the key, okay? So with that being said, coming from Yadkin County to an HBCU, I learned a lot about myself as a person and as a people. And then I became a mother of 3 young boys in Durham, okay? And I worked in the Title I school, Fayetteville Street Elementary. And in Fayetteville Street, the lights were dim, the facilities were dark, we had chalkboards when other schools had whiteboards, no technology. And my children, the students that I was teaching, did not know where the state capitol was. That hurt me to my heart. And at that time, being a mother of 3, I said, I do not want my boys to be limited. I want my boys to have more options other than being an athlete or an entertainer. So at that time, I went back to school and got my add-on license to teach ESL and took my family overseas to the Middle East because that's the only way I could afford to travel. Where do we want to go? We went to Malaysia, then we went to United Arab Emirates. And having that global exposure changed my life, but it also gave meaning, and it helped me to know what needs to happen inside the 4 walls of a classroom, okay? So moving back here, I was blessed. I came back in 2009 when jobs were depleting, and everyone said, don't come back, you won't find a job. The first day I landed, I interviewed at Hill Middle School and got the job. I was so jet lagged, I don't think I even slept, but I got the job. And within 2 years, I had an opportunity to join Piedmont Triad Leadership Academy to train to be a principal of at-risk schools, right? So, Ms. Woodbury, I echo you. This is divine. This is a divine assignment. My grandmother used to tell me she wanted to be a nun. I thought once I wanted to go on missionary work. I don't have to go out of the country when the needs are right here in our own backyard. So now, this is my 3rd year. I am a new principal. I don't think I can keep saying that anymore. It's the 3rd year. But I've experienced a lot. I know education like the back of my hand. My philosophy in the classroom is tough love. Now I have 5 children. I have 4 boys and 1 girl. So I know that children will do anything you say if you love them and you have an authentic relationship and you hold them accountable and you provide consistency. So my challenge has been to build a team of people who are dedicated to the work. And I'm here to tell you the work is not easy. So some people who have moved on to other things, I don't have any judgment about that because it's all about the season that you're in, and sometimes you can get burned out, and sometimes you can help from the sideline. You don't have to be in the school to help. So I'm so grateful for the community and volunteers who have just shown up to say we are with you. And last year was a hard time. It was very difficult. But every morning after we say the Pledge of Allegiance and our Gator Pledge, we have a moment of silence. And during that moment of silence, I try to always stop whatever I'm doing, and I ask God to let me do His will, let Him take me out of it. It's not about me, it's not my ego. Let me do what needs to be done for the kids. So my prayers are being answered, and we have to advocate for people who do not have a voice. And I'm also here to say that our parents are very supportive, despite the misperceptions, okay? I do have to tell my kids, and I had to tell my staff too, we might be in East Winston, we might be in what you might want to call the hood, but the work we do inside this building is of excellence. It's excellence. And we're not defined or limited by our circumstances. So the other piece I'll tell you about who Scarlet Linville is, I'm a single mother of 5. No, I am the demographics that I serve. So when I interviewed for the principalship, I had a choice of schools. Some of you know this, some of you don't. I had a choice. But I chose to come to Ashley, despite what everybody was saying. Don't go there, you might get shot. Don't go there, the parents will cuss you out. They fight all the time. That's not the truth. That is not who we are. And so I always invite people to come visit us. You will see some of the hardest working staff, very dedicated, the sweetest children. And we're all fighting, you know, literally just to meet all the demands of the state accountability standards while making sure that we establish a fun environment for kids. When they come to us, they want to eat, they want to socialize. We want them to be able to be kids, not grow up too fast. So it all starts with the relationship. So that's just a little bit of who I am and my passion for the work, but I also wanted to share with you the strategic transformation efforts that we've been doing, because we have federal funds that we're accountable for. And we are professionals. This work is not all about what we think and what we feel. We have to be intentional, and we have to look at the data to determine our next steps. So I'm not sure if it's up there, but we have some posters in the back. I thought there was a presentation, but okay. So the first year when I went in, there was a lot that needed to happen, and I was trying to do everything. Wrong, that was a mistake. I could not do everything. So in the March of my first year, the state came in and did a comprehensive needs assessment, gave us feedback about what's going well and where we need to focus. And they said, find one thing to hang your hat on. Just try to do one thing at a time. So in the second year, that was the plan, but that was last year, and there was the unexpected environmental concern, and that was of utmost importance. So throughout that process, I tried to maintain transparency with my staff, with my parents, with the community. I've always felt like if I know something, I want my staff to know. That builds trust, and it helps us to collaborate and make decisions that are collective, and it affects everybody. So with the environmental concerns, teachers can put in their own work orders. If there's a concern, go ahead and document it. It gets logged, and we expect a response, but all of that is an open process. So the records actually helped in the whole investigation. Like, it was there that teachers were making these complaints. And even this year, this summer, a lot of work was done. The building is brighter, the building is cleaner, the air feels cleaner. They are continuing to do monthly monitoring sessions, and there's a notebook that's kept of all of that. And we have staff members that are on a little subgroup, a work group, to inform, like, is everything okay? If it's not okay, let me know. Go ahead and make a documentation, because we don't want to lose ground. We gained a lot of momentum last year. We weathered the storm, and I really thank everyone that was a part of that, because I can't do it by myself. Cannot do it alone. It takes everyone supporting our staff. And so that process is still in place. So this year, I revamped the vision and the mission, and it's very simple. It's around the ABCs. And everything that we said we would commit to doing has data attached to it. So the first A is developing academic excellence, okay? That's what you'll see here, sort of small. We'll go back. But we've been focusing on something called multi-tiered systems of support. You can research it, but basically all it means is that everything you do has 3 levels. The research says the first tier, whatever you're doing academically or with behavior, should reach 80% of your students. It should be successful. If that doesn't work, you go to tier 2 supports for academics or behavior. That's for about 15% of the kids. And then if that doesn't work, then you move up to tier 3. That should only be 5%. But in our school, historically, it has been an upside down triangle where it's 80% at least of our students who were not being successful. So we had to focus on, wait a minute, the instruction. What kind of instruction are we giving? Is it meeting the multiple intelligence? Is it engaging our students? Is it geared to where they need to be? So we drilled down, and now we're focusing on small group instruction. I promise I'll try to go through this fast, but I want to be detailed so you can understand the context in which we work. Okay. Oh, thank you. Also, it's just using data. data-driven instruction. So when I first came, we weren't really equipped with that. Now, every classroom will have a data wall. Students have data notebooks. When we conference with parents, we're able to show data, and it encourages the students to say, hey, this is where you started, but this is not where you have to stay. Effort equals achievement, and that's what we promote in the building. Also, we have conferences. Because we are a SIG school improvement grant, every 20 days we have to turn in data to the state. What we realized is that we were intervening with the students easily, readily, but we weren't talking to our staff. So we implemented care conferences. Every 20 days, we call them in and say, let's look at your kids. How are things going? What do you need? How can we support you to be in service of, so that we're not waiting till the end of the school year for a big surprise. We're checking in every 20 days. And we've actually increased that frequency now for rapid improvement. Also, we have after-school tutoring, the professional development. Some of it is teacher-led, some of it we brought in experts to help us. And then our field trips. We are shepherds over this money. And so what we try to do is give children experiences they might not otherwise have that support whatever it is that they're supposed to be learning in the curriculum. Again, I told you I'm from Boonville. I did not have a vision, I did not have an experience with the fax machine. I didn't know what that was. What I knew in high school was that was something for the smart white kids to be able to do. No offense, but that was my vision. It wasn't meant for me. I didn't know what email was. My affluent friends had this, I didn't. It was like Mars. So my passion and my purpose is to make sure everything is tangible. It's experiences. A lot of the gaps that we talk about are experience gaps. They're not academic gaps, right? So field trips are very important to me. All right, then the second anchor that we established was building strong relationships. It starts there. We have all heard that children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's the same for my staff. The teachers at Ashley Academy could go anywhere else, but they choose to get the same pay as some of their colleagues and do double or triple the work with double and triple monitoring, right? That's very stressful. So it is my job as the leader to make sure they are taken care of emotionally as well. And whenever we can, financially. We reach out to community members and we say, can you host a breakfast? Can you host birthday gift bags? Can you just come in and lift our teachers up because they are really working hard? We also recognize them in staff meetings. We have cheerleading and basketball teams to give children extracurricular activities. We're hoping to start a golf team very soon. We have teacher leaders in the building. Again, what I've learned, this is my third year and some of my mentors may laugh, I just realized that sometimes we invite experts from outside to do some things that we already know how to do specific for our context. So being a former athlete and being a person who believes in teams, I try to look at my staff and look at their expertise and their strengths, and I let them lead. I want people around me who are different than me, so we can have a strong team. And so that's been very successful. Then there's the social emotional learning that we have to intentionally teach our children to recognize what it is that they're feeling and appropriate ways of dealing with it. And we have supports with the School Health Alliance. We have a wellness center who helps us with the behavior and therapy if needed, because mental illness is real and our students suffer from big trauma and little trauma from different circumstances that they're dealing with. And we have partnerships with the Winston-Salem State. The mentors come in. We use PBIS, which is a state form to recognize and promote positive reinforcement of expectations, and we reach out to our parents. And last but not least, our third anchor, this is the A, B, and this is the C, is engaging our community. Engaging our community. Curriculum nights, we've seen an increase in participation when we know students perform, and when we're able to provide dinner, because it is very hard to, if there's a program between 5:30 and 7 and you're getting off work, it's hard to decide to come there when afterwards you got to go home and cook dinner, feed the kids, put them to, it's difficult. So we want to try to eliminate barriers and make it easy for our families. Special donations, volunteer work, our global celebration. We just had the 5th annual global celebration, and we celebrated 20 years of existence as an elementary school, and it was awesome. It was great to see previous administrators, previous staff just come out and show love for the school and the continued work that's happening. We've had quarterly stakeholder meetings because we know communication is difficult. It is difficult to say one thing and expect for it to get from point A to point B the way you originally said it. So we are always working to improve the frequency of communication and the type of communication. So if you're interested after tonight, please follow us on any of the social media. We have annual golf tournaments. When I became the principal 3 years ago, I had never played golf, but I love honoring tradition. So the first time I ever played was at the golf tournament. I was so nervous and I was like, surely you don't want to win, but then I fell in love with it. So last year we had another golf tournament, and this year we're having another one on June 1st, and now I'm playing with my dad, and I realize it's just such an awesome game. So please join out and support our golf tournament. For the holidays and special occasions, our custodian takes the lead on providing our boys haircuts, because it's all hands on deck. Everyone that works in our building has the mindset that we treat our children, our students, like they're our own. That is the measuring stick. And then last but not least, we're continuing to increase our PTA involvement. I know that's a lot, and I could go on and on. I welcome you to come visit us. Just show your support to the teachers. We are approaching end of grade testing. We always need proctors to help us with that. And I just want to say again that I know this is meant to be. I know I told people in the first year, you want to be a part of making history, join our team. That was the pitch during the interview process the first year. I had no idea, Kelly and Alvin, that it was going to be this amount of history. But I'm excited, I'm encouraged. Do I get tired? Yes. Do I get frustrated sometimes? Yes. But then I have a lot of beautiful mentors and support people that pray for us and that trust me and allow me to vent, give me ideas about how to pick myself up and keep going. I cannot do this without you. And before I sit down, I would like to recognize the staff who came out to support tonight. Kendra Scott is our assistant principal, and she is a finalist for the assistant principal of the year in our district. So we look forward to hearing the results on Thursday night. Then I have my family engagement coordinator and magnet coordinator, Mr. Bowles and Ms. Garcia in the back. And then teachers, Ms. Meixner is an amazing music teacher. She really exposes our students to a lot. And Val Young, just been at the school since the beginning and now is NCAE president. We are so thankful for all of her hard work. And there's previous staff from Ashley. I see Miss Willard. I'm not sure if anybody else is in here. I don't mean to miss anyone, but truly it is a collective effort, and we look forward to the continued progress in the sake of our kids and our teachers. Thank you.
So y'all don't need me to tell you how great they're doing at Ashley, because you can tell how much the staff there cares. And I encourage all of you who are interested in volunteering or getting involved at Ashley to come and talk to Principal Linville or some of the other stuff that she introduced tonight after the meeting, because it's a really cool school. I'm excited they were able to make it tonight. So I am going to talk a little bit about Action4Equity and our mission and vision. I know you probably saw there's a lot of paper on your table. I hope you all like to share because we had a big turnout tonight. But it's also up here for y'all as well. But we encourage you to take it home. It's also all available on our website. The mission of Action for Equity is to collaborate and influence policy decisions that foster equity in education. And we are focused specifically on Forsyth County. As you know, we started with looking at Ashley, and then we realized, hold on, this is like someone, I think Peggy said, this is a symptom of a much bigger problem that we're seeing across the county, across the state, across the country. And so we need to broaden this, so now we're Action for Equity. And our vision is to advocate for equity in the district in academic achievement, access to high quality instruction, and safe and healthy school environments. And those are our 3 focus areas that we do try to focus on whenever we're talking about equity and looking at policies that we want to see implemented. You can, yeah, thank you. So this image is from the district Twitter. They have these 6 core values, and they are student-centered, accountability, integrity, high expectations, collaboration, and equity. I agree. Yay. So if we can see all those things come to fruition, we can really have the best district in the state. I truly believe that. We have, look at this community presence here and the investment. We can do this. But we have to ensure that every child has access to what they need to succeed. Every child, to reach their full potential. And we seek to hold Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools accountable to what they have stated, again with these core values. Next slide. And here are the core values again. This is just taken from their website. And they have these core beliefs and core values: student-centered, accountability, collaboration, equity, high expectations, and integrity. And I love these core beliefs. I'm gonna read them for you. If you close your eyes and just think about what kind of school system we could have here, it's really powerful. The core beliefs are that adult behavior impacts student outcomes, that home, school, and community relationships drive student success, that students remember how we make them feel. That one gets me every time. That a growth mindset fosters high expectations, and that students are at the heart of what we do. And if we commit to these, again, this is from the school district, this is not from Action for Equity, but we are here to partner with the community to make sure that this comes to fruition and comes to life here in our district. I'm going to talk real briefly about some data. There's also, Peggy Nicholson brought the racial equity report card from the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. It's on their website, it's on our website. I encourage you to take it home and look at it. But you can see there's an achievement gap in our district of more than 40% between black and white students. So yeah, white students are doing pretty good. I mean, I think in this day and age, 67% college and career readiness isn't so bad. But look at what it is for black students, 25%. For Latinx students, 28.6%. I mean, you can see the gap over here. For American Indian students, it's 20.5%. So who is our district really serving? Next slide. And you also know, I think everybody's seen the school report cards that the state comes out with schools being rated A, B, C, D, whatever. These are B-rated schools in our district. I just chose these 2 because they are schools that are not at what people consider the very top in our district, but good schools. But if you look at Jefferson Elementary, the achievement gap between black and white students at the end of 3rd grade math is more than 36%. Again, who's that serving? If you look at Mount Tabor High School, again, there's an achievement gap of more than 40%. We can do better. We can do better. Spees, this is where my son goes at the end of 3rd grade. They actually don't have as much of an achievement gap, but it's interesting because this is a D-rated school. But my kid goes to Spees, I love it. It's a Title I school, it's a great school. It's also an internationally focused school. We're kind of sister schools with Ashley. And then Parkland, which is a C school. I mean, these numbers aren't great, but they're not that much better than the schools that are rated A and B when you look at the achievement gap. So what are we really rating them on? And then discipline, when we talk about safety and healthy and safe school infrastructure, we're talking about actual infrastructure in buildings, like we're seeing at Ashley or other schools in the district that need new schools, but we're also talking about whether kids feel safe at school. School should be a place that kids can come and learn about the world, push boundaries. I have 2 kids, that's what they do. That's what kids do in a lovely, wonderful way so they can learn. That's how kids learn, is by exploring. But Black students are so much more likely to be suspended, to be pushed to the criminal justice system than white students, even for the same behavior. And that is really important. And if kids don't feel safe, they don't feel like they can ask questions and be safe to learn, they will not learn. And schools have to be a place for kids to be supported. Next slide. Again, this one kills me every time. 44% of juvenile court referrals in Forsyth County came from schools. How are kids getting to court? From school. That has to change. Next slide. I'm going through this really fast because I don't want to keep you here, y'all, too late. And these questions came from Dr. Bell. He's one of our board members. He could not be here tonight. But these are really important questions that I ask myself a lot. Why would the school board and Forsyth County accept these educational outcomes that I've just presented? And what are the long-term consequences for the community of these? I mean, what is it going to mean? What is our community going to look like in 20 years, and 30 years, and 40 years if we're okay with this? And what will it take to really achieve equity in the school system and in the school district? And so we ask those questions to ourselves at Action4Equity a lot. And so, next slide. We put together a policy agenda, which is on the table. It has our logo at the top. It's also available on our website. It's all over our website. We want to make sure y'all know what it is. And so we focus on several things. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but again, racial equity training, that's already been talked about tonight. A lot of the school board has already gone to that. That was one of our big asks. We presented our policy agenda in December. Peggy and her team were really helpful in helping us craft that and put all of our thoughts into words. And then already the school system has sent a lot of the principles of racial equity training. We're really happy to see that. They're also moving forward on funding the Office of Equity. The posting for the Executive Director of Equity is actually up right now. If you know anybody, that would be good. We want to make sure we get a great candidate for that. And there are plans to expand that department from one person, where Dr. Nash was here earlier. She used to be the one person for 58,000 students. Supposed to bring multicultural and equity and all of that in. Now they're looking at expanding that department, which we are so excited about, to include coaches and other projects within it. And we also want to see that the school district will create an organizational equity analysis so that we can really see where the strengths lie and where the challenges lie and what we need to be working on and where we can make a difference. And then lastly, in this piece of equity, I had in December asked for a racial equity task force, is what we called it, of community members, school staff, parents, and other support folks in the community, other stakeholders, to define the barriers, to really define equity and what it would look like for our county, and to create an annual report. Next slide. So I don't know if you can read this because it's kind of small on the screen. There's a lot of people here, but the school district has these goals on their website of 2020, we're going to have 90% of third graders reading on school level, which you saw the statistics, that hasn't happened yet. And then there's two others that are from 2018. So we're really hoping to get some updates on that. And so we've asked that the school board communicate publicly about the progress on these goals, that they create a multi-year plan in collaboration with community about how to address these things, that would have community involvement and community leaders and stakeholders, as well as parents. But we understand parents are busy. Like you said, it's hard to come to meetings after school. You get off work, you've got to feed your kids, you got to get them in bed before they totally lose it. These kids are so much better than my kids. My kids would already be losing it, y'all. But we understand how hard it is, and so some of us can step into that and be a voice for them where the parents can't make it just because of life, right? It's hard being a parent. And then next slide. And then again, the healthy and safe school infrastructure. I love this graphic. This is something that the school district put out a couple years ago, I think in 2016, about we welcome you, all religions, all colors, all cultures, all sizes, all ages, all genders, all types, all are safe here. And that's what we want to see. I mean, we want to live up to these things that we say and that we put out there. We want them to become reality. So we're talking about obviously a measurable resolution of the complaint, the civil rights complaint regarding Ashley, but also to develop a matrix and infrastructure so we can see what's going on in all the schools, do a comprehensive evaluation of what's going on and where there needs to be more infrastructure resources put towards different schools, an assessment of school climate and all the Title I schools in the district, and an analysis of suspensions, expulsions, and school-based referrals to the criminal justice system, again to address some of those disparities we were seeing in the data. Next slide. So we've made some progress. Again, we came out with these in December. It's May, so 6 months on. We're feeling hopeful, and we really appreciate the work with the different part of the school district, the principals, the school board, the different community members, and other elected officials. It's been really fruitful. Again, like I said, we have had some of the board attend racial equity training, and some of the principals. There is the Office of Equity that's being ramped up, and we're really excited to see that and more funding being put towards that so we can make some changes. And again, the Racial Equity Task Force, which is now called the Climate, Culture, and Equity Special Committee on the board. We called it something different. They're calling it this, but we're so excited to see it's a group, it's a special committee from the board that we have a seat on. A bunch of other community groups have a seat on, and so we're really hoping to see some good, fruitful changes come out of that, and it's already met several times this year. It meets monthly. And we've already seen that we filed the civil rights complaint in August. In December, we received notification that the federal government, the Department of Education, was going to investigate. They felt like there was enough merit to investigate this, which we were really excited to see they were opening an investigation, but also it's terrible that we even have to have an investigation into this, so we want to make sure that we name that. And so now we're just waiting to get an update from them. In case you didn't know, government moves slow, so we're still waiting, but we're hoping to have a good resolution to that. And the school system has actually had presentations at different board committee meetings about the suspensions and expulsions, so we're seeing some progress on that they are looking at the data and starting to think about what they can do to address that, so we're very excited. And then next up is Dr. Nash, who's, you should introduce yourself. She's been in the school district for a long time doing amazing work, and we're so thankful to have her on our board. Before she goes, I also wanted to mention on your table you'll have our recommendations on the superintendent search. In case you didn't know, the school board is currently searching for a new superintendent. They're starting the interview process right now. We've made some recommendations about what kind of experience and skills and knowledge that this new superintendent needs to have. And then as Kelly mentioned, I believe that we've also done advocacy around some of these state bills that were put forward this session. Luckily, they were defeated. But these bills were in an attempt to undermine the democratic process here in this county now that we have a different board, school board, and we're really thankful for the community coming together to defeat those bills.
Good evening, everyone. I am Willette Nash, and I am the former multicultural education specialist for Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools. But as of September, I am retired, and what I continue to hear over and over again is that I look like I'm living my best life, and if I look that way, I really am. And I am really pleased to be here to share with you, and very honored to share the research and the literature review from my mentor. Ed Bell is really such a special man, and just to give you an example of how special he really is to me, when I was working on my doctorate, he stood beside me on the treadmill once a week at Winston-Salem Y and whispered research strategies in my ear. He became my informal mentor, and when I submitted my dissertation and I got at a point where I was stuck, he whispered another strategy in my ear that took me over and had me conferred. So I really feel honored to share his work here tonight. Dr. Bell could not be with us because he's not feeling well. So I am going to try to do this the justice that it deserves. Dr. Bell has been very instrumental in helping us look at the research out of the Harlem Children's Zone as a model of successful community schools and community school collaboration. The Harlem Children's Zone is particularly notable because the data demonstrates that they have been able to close the Black-White achievement gap. They've done some phenomenal work in Harlem, but also near the end of the presentation, you will see some information about another example of a school here locally in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools, that was able to do the very same thing. So this presentation combines both of those schools and the data around those schools and their success strategies. So this research was conducted by Dr. Ronald Fryer, who was an economist and was the Henry Lee Professor of Economics at Howard University. Dr. Fryer and his doctoral student, Will Dobie, looked at different types of analytical methods in terms of their research into looking at the success of the Harlem Children's Zone. One of the interesting things about Dr. Fryer is that before becoming a professor at Harvard, he worked at McDonald's in the drive-thru. So I think that speaks to what Principal Linville has been saying to us, that we are not necessarily defined by our immediate circumstances. And I think this is an important point to note from this research as well. The Harlem Children's Zone was founded by Jeffrey Canada, and it offers a range of programs including education, family supports, community input, and health services. An article in Education Week reported that the Harlem Children's Zone, and they term it to be a high-profile New York initiative, and some of you may have read about it. I remember reading about it in my work as well. It combines wraparound community services for minority students and low-income families, and it showed dramatic academic gains that effectively closed the Black-White achievement gap in most of the categories that they looked at in terms of their study. It's a 90-block area in Harlem, New York, combining a no-excuse philosophy to charter schools with a web of community services designed to ensure the social environment both in school and out of school is supportive of children from birth to college. The Harlem Children's Zone has given the educational research field a laboratory to understand whether community schools or a combination of two are the main drivers of student achievement. The answer to this question is of tremendous importance for global public policy, as it goes to the heart of how communities and public goods should be allocated to alleviate racial and economic inequality. The Harlem Children's Zone offers a number of programs that the researchers have divided into two categories: community and school inputs. Community programs are available to anyone who at that time were living near the Harlem Children's Zone. It served 8,058 youth, 5,291 adults during the periods of 2007 and 2008. The school inputs were provided approximately to approximately 1,300 students who were in attendance of what they call the Promise Academy. The community programs offered 20 programs which they viewed as broad-based investments in community development and were available to any child in New York City. They included early childhood programs such as baby college, public elementary, middle, and high school programs, college success office, family, community, and health programs, foster care prevention services, tax help, guidance, and other different services. The Harlem Children's Zone Initiative programs fell into 4 categories. They looked at time on task and tutoring, high-quality teachers who spent their time teaching, support services, changing culture and norms. In terms of time on task and tutoring, the Promise Academy utilized an extended day and an extended school year. They offered coordinated after-school tutoring, Saturday Academy for remediation in math and English language arts. Promise Academy students that were in school, they received twice as many hours as traditional public school students. Students who were at or above grade level received about 50% more instruction during the calendar year. Under high-quality teachers, the Promise Academy focused on recruiting and retaining high-quality teachers and used a test score value-added measure to both incentivize and evaluate their teachers. Their time was spent primarily on teaching, not on administrative tasks. In looking at support services, the schools provided free medical, dental, mental health services. Students receive screening upon entry and regular checkups throughout the year using the Children's Health Fund. There were student incentives for achievement, nutritious cafeteria meals, and support for parents in the form of food baskets, meals, bus fare, and other incentives and supports, and less tangible benefits such as the support of staff members at the schools. In terms of looking at changing the culture and norms, the schools made a concerted effort to change the culture of achievement, emphasizing the importance of hard work in achieving success. In looking at this sample, there were 2 samples, a treatment group and a control group. The treatment group were students that were admitted by lottery. The control group consisted of students who were not lottery winners. To complement the lotteries, the study identified a second strategy looking at the interaction between the students' cohort year and whether or not they lived inside or outside of the zone's boundaries. And looking at the results of the study and those statistical analysis, this is what the researchers discovered. The Promise Academy charter schools in the Harlem Children's Zone are effective at increasing the achievement of the poorest minority children. Students who enroll in middle school gain about 2.02 standard deviations in math per year. Taken at face value, these effects are enough to close the black-white achievement gap in mathematics by the time the students reach 9th grade. Students in the Promise Academy Elementary gained approximately 0.2 standard deviations in both math and English per year, closing the achievement gap in both subjects by 3rd grade. So, the Promise Academy was successful at boosting achievement in math and English language arts in elementary school and math in middle school. The impact of being offered admission to the Promise Academy Middle School on English language arts achievement is likely positive, but less dramatic. And the researchers look at 2 pieces of evidence for these findings. A comparison of lottery winners who live outside the zone and those who live inside the zone, as well as a comparison of siblings of lottery entrants. So that suggests that their results were driven by the school inputs at the Promise Academy and not the community programs offered by the Harlem Children's Zone. So in looking at this study, the researchers imply that community and school systems can implement school programs utilizing these 4 characteristics and can be successful in closing the achievement gap. So in terms of ESSA and these findings, What we understand from this work is that a state has the flexibility, and we're referring to North Carolina right now, to determine whether to reserve a portion of its Title I funds, Part A, to support direct student services. If a state chooses to take advantage of this flexibility, a district may use up to 1% of its award under Section 1003A for outreach and communications to parents about available direct services for students in the district and state. Up to 2% of its award for administrative costs related to such student services are also available under this flexibility. The researchers go on to talk about the 4 characteristics of successful interventions in closing the achievement gaps. In terms of looking at their study, they indicate that Dobie and Fryer in 2011 support this conclusion from a case study of the successful intervention they found in the Harlem Children's Zone as being similar to what happened in Latham Elementary School in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. And I'll talk briefly about that. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the success of Latham, but Latham students were unique in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, because they received statewide recognition as the #1 school of the most 25 improved schools in the state. It is important to note that under Larry Field's leadership, the state predicted that 45% of Latham's students would be proficient in reading and math. At the time of this statewide recognition, Latham students were 82.8% proficient in both subjects. The implications of this study is that the research-based initiative changed the normative culture of Latham in 6 ways. Josh, can you go back? I want to point something out. If you take a look at the first bullet, Dr. Bell was one of the principal researchers on this study, so it's important to note that this is also the result of his work, and these are his findings as well. So these are the findings in terms of the shift in the achievement and the culture of the students at Latham Elementary. Continually evaluating the instructional strategies for effectiveness, providing personal and educational programs for every child that are collaboratively developed and monitored by groups of teachers, committing to the continued growth in education of staff and parents with a constant focus on improvement of student achievement and performance, using frequent assessment and data analysis to guide instruction and focus on problem areas, maintaining continuous two-way communication with all stakeholders, redesigning the structure, flow, and delivery of the curriculum. These strategies also were successful and instrumental in changing attitudes and beliefs of all members of the elementary school community, and particularly about students' abilities. I know this is Dr. Bell's favorite quote because he talks about this all the time, and it's usually on all of his presentations. But I do really think I want to leave this with you because it's a very powerful one. Ronald Edmonds made this point in 1979. It seems to me, therefore, what is left of this discussion are 3 declarative statements. We can, whenever and wherever we choose, successfully teach all children whose schooling is of interest to us. We already know more than we need to know to do that. Whether or not we do it must finally depend on how we feel about the fact that we haven't so far.
Wow.
Next we have Emily Shutt, who is one of our board members, one of our longest serving board members, and she's going to talk about how you can support Action for Equity and how you can get involved.
Thanks, Katie. I am the least qualified person to stand up here tonight, but Kelly told me to be here, so here I am. My only experience in education is that I went to school, and I have some kids who go to school, but that's, you know, here I am. I see the disparities in our district, and that, you know, makes me want to show up and do something. I hear people talk about good schools and making choices to ensure the best for their children, but shouldn't all our schools be good, and don't all the kids deserve the best? So, at Action for Equity, we know we're not all going to agree on all the things, but we have some guiding principles that we believe are imperative. One is Action for Equity seeks to center the voices and leadership of people of color. Two, we believe that our school system is working exactly the way it was intended. I mean, that quote, wherever that was, pretty much says it all. Our district is working well, pretty well, if you're white, middle, upper class, typically developing, able-bodied, but that obviously misses a whole bunch of people. And we must address the systemic underlying issues along with the individual biases and beliefs of individuals if we want to make meaningful gains towards true equity. All that being said, we know that everyone's on a journey, and Action for Equity wants to be a place where we can share resources and encourage those who see these disparities and want to seek to understand why they exist. I know I've been helped along the road by many of people in this room, and I'm grateful that my well-intended ignorance is welcomed here, but it's also challenged. Our hope is to continue to be a multiracial group where we can come together to learn and grow and affect change. On your table, in the stack of papers, is how to get involved. And so if you want to jump in with us, here are some ways. I'll go over those quickly. We want to continue to build our presence at the Board of Education meetings. There are a whole lot of them, and they need to know that we're there and we're holding them accountable, but we're also cheering our elected officials along as they work towards equity and support them in that. Reverend Ford in First Baptist is working on developing an Afrocentric after-school enrichment program here, and could use help in that initiative. We would love to develop a video series of all the knowledge we have in our community and put it out as a resource, and we haven't gotten to that yet, so if you have any skills to make that happen, that would be great. And the reason we haven't gotten there is we're a 100% volunteer-led organization, and so we need money, and we need people to help get money, so if that's you, then let us know. And we also hope to build a political action committee, as we know that direct engagement in our electoral process is how change also comes about, and that would be totally separate from Action for Equity, but if that is something that you are passionate and experienced in, then we'd love to have you do that. And we know that there are a lot of groups here already working for equity. There's a whole lot of momentum, and we have some tables set up in the back of different organizations. So connect with those groups, and there are great ways to get plugged in there as well. And we also want to be a support and to the parents and the community members who are already in the schools, already doing the work, who know what needs to happen in schools to advance equity. So we want to be a resource to collaborate with you, to support you. We have a great resource with Southern Coalition for Social Justice, who beyond legal advice, they also connect us to different groups across the state and the region who are doing this work. So we want to support groups who are doing this work already in our community. Thanks.
Brothers and sisters, I'm so glad to see so many of you here tonight. At our height tonight, I'm told we had over 125 people here this evening. Amen. Why don't you give yourself a round of applause? A round of applause. And I joked to Katie that we were going to hear it from Kelly, because she told us there was going to be an overflow crowd here tonight. We said, oh, no, we don't know, but we are so glad that we did. Amen, amen. So glad to see all of you guys. You got it right. Brothers and sisters, I just want to acknowledge a few people to begin with. First of all, the event committee that helped put this together. Everybody here from the AFE event committee that helped put this together. Won't you stand real quick if you're on the event committee? All right. All right, very good. Also, all the members of the board of Action for Equity, if you're here, won't you just wave your hand or stand real quick? All right, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, a big thank you to all of our speakers who have come up and were on program here, as well as all of our elected officials who have joined with us on this evening. We are seeking your support. As we said, this is a volunteer-led organization. There is much work that we have to do. Right over behind Reverend Bass, at that table over there to my left, your right, there's a box where we are asking for donations. And we are asking you, if you have it tonight, that you can make donations to support this work. One of the things we were intentional about when we set up Action for Equity was to make sure that we were going to be doing things in a transparent fashion. We know that it takes resources to help support this work, and so we ask you to make a contribution tonight. 65 years ago, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Ed that having schools that were separate but unequal was unconstitutional. 65 years ago. And we know that the great success of the civil rights movement, and that was one of the early ones, was that it was an intentionally interracial coalition of individuals who had a shared commitment to justice and equity for those who had not been the beneficiaries of either in this nation's history. Amen. So what we also know is that the issue that we are addressing tonight, and have been for well over a year, of educational equity is part of the unfinished work of the civil rights movement. It's part of the unfinished work that began at least back in 1954 with the efforts to desegregate our schools, if not long before then. And what I think should really inspire us is to see that what has informed here has much of the same character of what formed to make the civil rights movement such a success. What has gone on over the past year plus represents two very important things. One, it represents the beginning of the end of plantation politics in Forsyth County. Plantation politics is what has kept us being happy that we got a little bit of something, while there was a glaring need for the rest of everything that other folks were getting. Okay? And that sort of mentality has kept us from addressing this work in this way for many years, because it wasn't like the need wasn't there. But what encourages me when I look around at so much of the work that is going on, just a little bit that I've gotten to see in the year and a half that I've been down here, and what I hear from people who've been around here for many, many decades more than that, is that they talk about something new happening, Rev Carlile, that there's a shift going on. This might even be a Kairos moment, Clay. There's something changing in the atmosphere. Something changed in the atmosphere. And so this is about the end of plantation politics, and it's about the beginning of real, lasting, meaningful change that will make a positive difference for all of our kids. Equality has never been enough in this country. It's about equity. It's about the resources that will level the playing field, so that for the first time, we're actually all starting from the same point. And that's what this is all about. So I am just so grateful for all of you coming out here tonight. Sister Woodbury, if you don't have to run out, you're willing to stay here for a few minutes and people want to talk to you one-on-one, we're going to ask you to do that. She's such a great resource, and we just want to thank Sister Shy Woodbury for being such a great board chair. Such a great board chair. And so the activity that Emily talked about at the very end of the what you can do and how you can support us really is a key thing. And it is going to be the next kind of big initiative, along with others that have been mentioned, which is to get together an organization that will be separate from this particular one, formally speaking, to make sure that what happened with the school board elections in the fall of 2018 keeps on happening, was not a fluke, that we continue to have people running for office and taking office who have the interests of equity for all of our children at the center of their vision and not as a secondary consideration. And so that's the help that we are going to need from you, in addition to all the other projects that we are working on. With that, my brothers and sisters, I would just invite you to stand and stretch out for a minute and join hands together